Thank you, Martin Foley and Brett Sutton, for inviting me to share my story. Hi, my name is Saela, and this is my mum, Michelle. We are from the northern suburbs, from Hume, Broadmeadows. I'm 17 years old and a Year 11 VCE student, and last month I nearly died from COVID-19. In late August, my family got COVID from my baby sister's daycare. At the time, I was not eligible for the vaccine, and now I wish I was vaccinated before I got COVID. My whole family was sick. Everyone was coughing and suffering from aches and pains and a sore throat. We couldn't taste or smell. For me, my symptoms were worse, with coughing fits that left me breathless. As a family, we were more worried about my grandma, as she was older. We thought she'll be at risk the most. I thought I was safe, I was young, and COVID would usually affect the older people. I had moments where I felt good and was hopeful I was getting better. And then I would get bad again. In the second week of COVID, there's a risk of a relapse of symptoms. And this is where it got worse for me. My coughing fits lasted longer and I struggled to breathe. My whole family looked at me with worry and I would just brush it off and say I was okay. But really, I was scared and I was hoping I would get better. As I got worse, we had to call the ambulance. I knew that if I went with them, I would be alone. They took me to Box Hill Hospital, which was a 40-minute drive away. I decided to go to the hospital as I thought it was only a checkup and be home the next day. With the hope I would be home the next day, I sat alone in the ambulance and I had never been in an ambulance before. I said goodbye to my family. I was so scared and lonely. My health progressively got worse. And then one night I couldn't stop coughing. I was struggling to breathe. The day before, they said I had pneumonia. I had no idea what that was. I felt so many needles. I couldn't catch my next breath. There was so much commotion around me, and I didn't know what was going on. I was so scared, I was screaming, and I thought I was going to die. And then I felt nothing. That put me to sleep. They woke me up 9 days later. I had no idea what had happened or how much time has passed. I wasn't fully awake and I was hallucinating. I had a tube coming out of my neck. I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. I was scared to sleep again. I just stared at the ceiling and I was alone. There was so much machines around me, so many wires and needles, so much beeping, and everything made me scared. I was broken. None of this was fair. With each passing day, I slowly got better. I started breathing on my own, and 5 days later, I waved goodbye to the ventilator. My strength was coming back. I had to learn to walk again. I cried every day, but I worked very hard at my recovery so that I could be home for the AFL Grand Final, which I was. I spent nearly a month in hospital, and 15 of those days was in ICU. I'm so thankful to the team at Box Hill Hospital. They were amazing. I'm so grateful that I was gifted with life again, as I was close to death. There are a lot of people my age who think they're invincible and don't need the vaccine. They think they're young, they don't have underlying conditions. They won't be affected, but COVID almost killed me. I know that people in their teens and 20s haven't been eligible for as long, and the numbers are catching up and growing fast. But we are still the least vaccinated age group above the age of 12. I don't want anyone my age to have to lie in a hospital bed and tell their family, I'm sorry I did not get vaccinated in time. I don't know what the lasting effects COVID will have on me. I'm still recovering. I'm not 100% with my strength yet. My mind is still fragile. My bruises are fading. I will have this scar on my neck for the rest of my life from the tracheostomy. At the time, I was the youngest person to be on ventilator because of COVID. I don't know now. There's still COVID in our community. There's still so many families right now being affected, and that makes me so sad. I'm so blessed that I'm home now with my family. I just want things to go back to the way it was. And when we have that chance, please don't wait anymore. If you can get the vaccine, please consider it.
Thank you for inviting us to share our story. It's still so sensitive when I hear Saela talk about it. I'm still hurting from this experience because of COVID, and I'm so thankful that I have my daughter standing next to me right now. I admire her bravery and her resilience, and it's so sad to know that there are still a lot of families out there who are affected by COVID. When I got the call from the doctor to say that Saela's health had deteriorated so rapidly and was getting transferred to the ICU and put on a ventilator, I was in shock. And I thought, how? Like literally, I just talked to her 2 hours ago. And we were talking about coming home in the next few days. And I said to the doctor, please, please, let me talk to her before you do this. And he said, it's best that you don't. She is so distressed. And before that call ended, I heard her screaming. I don't know if it's my imagination or it's a mother's intuition, but I heard her screaming. The next 24 to 48 hours, Saela was critical. It was hour by hour. Her lungs had filled with so much fluid, and there was little air for her to breathe. She needed a lot of help from the ventilator, and I wished that she had been vaccinated. But it was too late. She was already in ICU. I remember speaking to the doctor, and I said, please, you need to save my baby. And he said, Michelle, I promise you I'm doing everything that we can. We are doing everything that we can. He said, at this moment, she is the most sickest person in this hospital. At this moment, she is the most sickest person in Eastern Health. COVID, without the protection of the vaccine, had done this to her. There was no other reason she was in ICU. Last week, she was in school, and next week, she was in a coma. At the same time, my dad became COVID positive, and I was so grateful he was fully vaccinated. My older son was becoming sicker. He was going through his relapse. He had high fevers and nausea. And I was so worried about him because he was unvaccinated. And then my husband started coughing up blood. He didn't tell me at first, but I found out. His coughs were so powerful it left him weak. He struggled to breathe. He struggled to lift his head up and even keep his eyes open. He didn't want to go to the hospital. We were so worried about Saela, but he did. And again, I saw another ambulance take another one of my family members away to a different hospital. And I was like, come on, like who next, seriously? I wanted to drive to the hospital. I became irrational. I was broken. I wanted to be with Saela, with my husband, but I couldn't. I was still so sick with COVID myself. I couldn't risk another person getting this. And I started to grieve. I thought someone was going to die, and it was much easier for me to prepare for a loss than to hope. I was watching COVID rip through every member of my family and hurt them, and it was so painful, and I couldn't do anything. I was alone. I was helpless. I was receiving so many messages of support from my family, my friends, my work buddies, my school community and religious community. And even we got a call from the Chief Health Officer himself, Brett Sutton. Thank you for that call. And I'm so thankful for them as they helped me snap out of my helplessness, and I thought if they can hope, then I can too. And very slowly it got better. Saela was responding to treatment. Her body was fighting the virus. I would call her bedside every night, and even though she was sleeping, the nurse would put the phone speaker near her ear, and I would talk to her. She wasn't awake, I don't think she heard it. But I spoke to her and did a bit of a podcast, and it was just my way of connecting with her. My husband came home from hospital after 3 days, and he got the all clear to continue his recovery at home. I got clearance from COVID, and I was finally allowed to visit Saela. I was escorted to the COVID ICU. It was so daunting. I saw Saela just lying there. She wasn't awake. Once the tracheostomy was done, and that's where they took the ventilator out of her mouth, and they put it through her throat, they began to wake up Saela. And we were so happy. But she wasn't. She was so scared, and she was so sad, and it was a long way to go. She didn't understand what was going on. She woke up 9 days later. Thankfully, the team at Box Hill Hospital were amazing. They supported Saela in her recovery. We're not actors. This is not a script. This is some paper so I can look at because this is so nerve-wracking. It's our story. Saela wanted to share her story. She wasn't forced, and I admire her bravery. Maybe there will be anonymous people online who will try and make her feel bad for speaking out, but they should know that nothing will ever make her feel worse than what COVID did. We're all over this. I hate COVID. I'm done with lockdown, and soon we won't need it because enough of us will be vaccinated. We have the option to get back to some sort of normal, and the vaccine will protect us and provide reassurance to our family and our loved ones. I personally have seen how COVID has affected my family, from the fully vaccinated and unfortunately to the unvaccinated like Saela. I honestly believe the vaccine protected my parents, and I'm so grateful they got it. And that one dose that me and my husband got had helped. And that says so much. My parents should have been the most at risk because of their age, but they were vaccinated and they were okay. And Saela, she should have been the least at risk because of her age, but she wasn't vaccinated and she almost died. We don't know why she got so sick. We may never know why, but I do believe she wouldn't have been this sick if she had been vaccinated in time. Please, no family should have to go through what we did. No parent should have to see their child suffer and die, and almost die. Don't leave it until it's too late. Please consider the vaccine. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Michelle and Saela. That was very powerful. Whilst they're up here, perhaps if there's any questions, we could ask them in the appropriate way. And thank you again, Michelle.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well done, Michelle and Saela. That was really brave. How many family members all up?
8 of us. So it was me and my husband, and I have 4 children. So Saela, an older son, and 2 younger children, plus my mum and dad.
So they were the only 2 that were fully vaccinated?
Yep.
You and your husband were partially vaccinated?
That's it.
So that's 4, and the other 4, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
What was it like watching them deteriorate and seeing your family member go through various symptoms? Can you...
It was probably the worst thing I've ever seen. You're helpless, and plus you're alone. No one can come and comfort you or nothing like that. You have to do this alone because you've got that virus. And watching that, it just hurts even more because they're going, you know, you don't know when to call that doctor, when to call that ambulance, you don't know. And you know that if you do, and if they get taken, they're alone and you can't see them. It's one of the worst feelings I've ever felt, just seeing them. And for me, it didn't make sense because I was just experiencing, you know, it wasn't as bad as what they had. And it didn't make sense why they got so sick.
Yeah, what were those different levels of deterioration throughout your family members? You said some were...
COVID's quite interesting because you think that you're better and then it goes worse. So there is that period of relapse. So at the start it was the coughing, the body aches and everything like that. With my husband, he was just coughing so much. It was too much. His body, you know, that's when the coughing, the blood came. So you just see it. And with Saela, her coughing fits were lasting way longer. And after that, she'd have moments where she could not breathe and she couldn't catch that next breath.
And how did that differ from those family members that were vaccinated? What were their symptoms?
It was much more different. There was a big difference because my parents were vaccinated and they didn't have that breathlessness. It was only Saela. So we did see that the vaccinated were much more protected than what Saela was.
Yeah.
You walk out of here, someone says to you, I don't trust the vaccine, I don't need the vaccine. What do you reply to them?
It's up, they're entitled to their opinion, honestly, and it's up to them. It's not me to give, you know, to force them to do it. I'm just here to tell my story, and this is what happened to me. And I just hope that that person doesn't get what we had or experience what we did. It's up to them.
Can I ask Saela a question quickly? Could you just tell us a little bit more about how you felt since you came out of the hospital, how you've gone getting back into your regular life from before and with school and stuff?
So when I came back home, I was very happy to be around my family, and recovery was very slow, but I got there.
She's attending classes again. Just this week, she's gone back to attending her online classes. Her recovery, it's been amazing. I couldn't believe it. This just happened last month. And for her to be standing here right now, it's amazing.
How are you feeling now, Saela? And thank you, you've been very brave to get up and speak to us all, but are you feeling back to 100%, or do you feel like there's still a bit of a lag symptom?
I'm feeling really better. I'm still fragile, like mentally, but I'm working on it.
What about the physical ongoing effects?
Physically, my strength is not there, but I'm working really hard.
We've got physio support with that. that are going to keep an eye on it. So it's not 100%, and we don't know when it will recover to 100%, but it's something that she also needs to work hard to achieve.
When you're in the hospital system, how many other young people did you see there?
I didn't see many. I was basically like the only one.
And how did that make you feel? You must have felt like, you know, this is predominantly a disease we see in the elderly people, so... Yeah.
We did. We had a bit of a giggle about it, and we did feel that maybe the nurses and the doctors spoiled her a bit because she was the youngest one there, and she was probably the only one that was called superstar all the time. But yeah, it was really daunting when you go into the hospital, and I'm just there to see a 17-year-old, and there's much older patients there.
So among your colleagues at school or among your friends, what's their general attitude towards the vaccine? What do they generally think about getting it?
They're very supportive. They did get the vaccine, which I'm very happy that they did, and yeah.
They got really shook up because it hit home for them. For a lot of people, we were the first family that they knew that got COVID, and especially in Saela's school as well. She was the first, you know, one of the students that was known and had rapidly deteriorated. So a lot of them did get a bit shaken up, and I think it did encourage a lot of them to get the vaccine as well.
You raise a good point, because COVID is it's a disease that you don't necessarily know anyone that does have the virus. So how has that changed things for you, and have you seen other people around you now contract it since? Or?
It's changed us in a big way, because even I was the first person I knew that got it. Before it was just numbers, it wasn't familiar to me, and I didn't have that story or that friend to relate to. So for us, we are very open to letting people know that we got it. It can be a bit of a thing where you get shame. You don't feel shame, but you're a bit shy to say that you got it. And I do want to share that we did get it, and I was very open about it. So it has changed us a lot. It's changed the people that we know as well. And yeah.
I guess what's your final message to people that are listening at home?
To get vaccinated. To avoid getting coronavirus, I'll say it's best to get vaccinated to protect yourself and the people around you.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm just glad to have my mini-me back. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.